Develop your skills. Exercise 4, Development 01. Use AutoSum and status bar functions. Excel's going to do a lot for us that a calculator would, but it's going to be able to do it for us in a way a calculator would not. Calculator's great at 1 plus 2 divided by 4 times 6, but when we have a big, huge array of numbers, a large matrix of numbers that goes 5 to the left and 10 down, we're going to need to learn to have Excel go get the numbers we need and to make logical assumptions about what we need added up. This is where an AutoSum function comes in, and it's surprisingly intuitive once you know it's there and what to expect. Open up your workbook for lesson 4, and you're going to start out with sales department first quarter commissions. What if we want to add up the monthly totals for everyone in January? Or what if we want to add up the first quarter total for all 3 months for Telos Boras? Let's do this. Starting in cell B9, you'll notice that there's a button up here that just says AutoSum. Be sure you've clicked the Home tab up here, and then into the Editing box, click AutoSum. When you click it once, you're going to get equals sum, and then in parentheses, you're going to get B5 colon B8. Here's how to read that. Equals means we're going to be entering a formula. So equals sum means, hey Excel, I'm not typing, I want to do a formula, and the formula is going to be the sum of the numbers in the parentheses. That's the long way of saying what this formula denotes. B5 colon B8 means everything from B5 through B8. B5 colon B27 would be just that, everything in cells 5 through cell 27. In this case, that little scrolling marquee, marching army ants, show us what we'll be adding up. Excel's pretty good at making assumptions on this one that are accurate. In this case, the monthly total is just going to be the 4 entries above. It says, are you sure you want this one? Say we wanted to leave Telos out, we could just click here and drag down. You'll notice now it's B6 through B8. The default option, these 4, is all we need. We can just hit enter, and there we go. 1059. That's the total for January. Excel won't just add things up above. If we come over here to cell E7 and we click just the AutoSum button, it's going to assume that since there are no numbers above, but there is a list of numbers to the left, we want to add up everything to the left. Equals sum parentheses B7 through D7. That means everything between B and D in all the 7 row is going to be added up. I always find it helpful to look through these formulas and say, do I understand what I'm looking at? Make sure that you can read this. Make sure that you could explain to someone who doesn't speak Excel what these formulas are actually doing. It'll help you with your own understanding. If we hit enter or tab here, there we go. Brian Simpson, over all 3 quarters, totaled 1114. Good stuff, no? Now, let's move on and get things a little bit more specific. It seems like a bit of busy work to click on each of these cells and try to fill all this in, and it seems a little odd that we would have to only add up these lists of numbers. How's about this? How's about we learn how to do a more selective list, and how's about we also learn how to make sure that Excel knows that we want to add everything up. If we just clicked here and say, okay, well, instead of first quarter total, I want my 2-month total. Let's change that one. If I click AutoSum here, I just want January and February. Hey, right on, there we go. I can do that one again, click AutoSum and select just the first 2, or if I want just the last 2, it'll add up only what's highlighted. Excel will let you select different things all day. You can take anything you want, but be sure that you've selected, give it a quick double check to what you know you want added up, and then just hit enter, and it will add everything that's been selected. Pretty straightforward. Let's get rid of these guys, and then let's try something new. What if we have the total here, AutoSum, hit enter. What if we need to fill everything in? You'll recall back in chapter 2 we used the fill handle. That's that little box right down in the lower right hand corner. Move the mouse over the box until you see that kind of thinner black cross shape. Click and hold the left mouse button and then just drag to the right. You'll notice up here that's the sum of B5 through B8, sum of C5 through C8. Excel knew what we were doing. We always want to have 5, 6, 7, and 8, but we don't want to have row B here. We want this to be row C. We still want 5, 6, 7, and 8, but now we want row D. When we use that fill handle to move across, Excel is going to assume that we want to move the formula across where it's needed as well. In this case, we do have E5 through E8, but we just don't have anything there yet. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, well, at least Excel's doing its math right. That's 0. Let's see if we can add up a little bit more. What if we take the entire range here, and we click Auto Sum? Oh, hey, whoa, well, that did it automatically. When you have more than one option, rather than Excel select all 12 of these entries, it's going to say, well, the most logical option, since you want this whole list to be sums, is going to be to go just to the left. So it did exactly that. B5 through D5 is these cells. Over here we have B6 through D6. That's these cells. And then, of course, down here, E5 through E8, that's these cells. This is a total of totals. This is a grand total right here. And Excel knows that this number right here is going to equal these. It's going to equal these. Let's do just a little bit more here. Let's see if instead of just sums, what if we can do perhaps a little bit more? What if, rather than trying to add these sums here and these sums over here, what if we wanted the whole shebang? If I select all the numbers plus all these sum areas over here, what do you think Excel's going to do? Click Auto Sum. Hey, what do you know? It filled it all in. Excel's got a good grip on what we're probably going to want. You'll notice it didn't give us that scrolling marquee. That's okay. In this case, if we needed something specific, if we needed just the first 2 months here, just the last 2 months here, a really specific list, we'd have to handcraft that. But 99 times out of 100, you're going to need this list to behave just like this. And that's the first assumption Excel will make. Remember, if you're going after something that's probably the low-hanging fruit or the easy thing to do, chances are that's going to be Excel's first guess. We can do more than just add, though. Check this out. Let's come down here to Average, and instead of Auto Sum, click the little black drop-down arrow just to the right of Auto Sum. If we select Average, you'll notice it'll say, okay, well, equals average, B5 through B10. It's on the right track, but in this case, we don't want the average to include the monthly total. The average of all of the months of January, we just click and select the 4 months in January. Take a moment to look at this one. Understand what you're looking at. The equal sign right here means that we're going to have a formula. We're not typing, so Excel won't write equals average. It will do the math on an average. Equals average, and then within the parentheses, whenever we have parentheses in an Excel formula, that means that we want to do this to whatever's inside these. So we're going to take the average of whatever's in between the parentheses. In this case, all we need is B5 through B8. When we hit enter, there we go. 264.75 is the average. Now what if we want to average all of January, all of February, and all of March? You could do it pretty quickly with Auto Sum and just clicking drop down and average, but there's an even faster way. Remember your fill handle. Move the mouse till it's that thin black cross and then drag straight across. When you let go, there's the average of February, the average of March, and there's the average of the total of all 3 months. Now we're going to go to maximum, and you guessed it, same way. Once we've clicked in B12, and then we've clicked the drop-down menu here, click on Max. Max is just that. What's the highest number in the range? In this case, it's going to say, well, there's a break in the numbers here, so I'll stop. Do you want the max of this one cell? Well, the max of one number is always itself. So let's just say, you know, Excel, I appreciate your help there, but we need this range right here. Once we have all of the January entries entered, we can just tell it, find the max. In a foreign number entry, this is pretty easy. It's pretty obvious that 389 is bigger than 74 and bigger than 250. But when you're going through a list of 50,000 numbers, you're going to want to say A1 through A50,001, what's the max? Let Excel do the heavy lifting for you. When we have equals max B5 through B8, we are going to have Excel tell us what the maximum value is in cells B5, B6, B7, and B8. Just hit enter. What do you know, 389? It's pretty easy to just kind of eyeball it and check the math. We know Excel's working properly when it gives us the right answer. You guessed it, fill handle. Left click and hold, drag straight across, let go. Boom, there we go. This sheet's filling out pretty quick. Minimum, same way we did maximum and average. Click the little drop down arrow, select minimum, tell it We need this minimum range, because we don't want to have the minimum with a monthly total and an average and a max in there. Click enter, and sure enough, 74. Drag the fill handle across. Good to go. We've only got one left. Now what this one is count. Let me explain count. Count, sometimes you won't know how many cells you have. You may select a large group. What count is going to do is it is going to count the number of cells that have numbers in them. This is not always the most useful feature, but in a cell where there's a number, and then if there's a cell to the left that doesn't have a number, the next 2 cells to the right have an entry, the next 3 cells after that are blank. What if we had that kind of random mishmash of populated and unpopulated cells that was 50 wide by 100 long? I wouldn't want to count that one off, especially all these little squares. It'd be dizzying. Just click down here, drop down menu, and count numbers. If we select these 3, it should say there's 4 cells with numbers in them. Hey, what do you know? We're at 4. Sure enough, we can drag straight across. Pretty easy to fill out an entire sales 3 months with totals for the individual, totals for the month, totals for the entire team, the averages, maximums, minimums, and the total count of entered cells. Are you seeing how this comes together and how the real lifting power of a spreadsheet is not just doing math, but it's doing the math in a way that is easy to calculate, that's easy to see, that's easy on the eye, and that makes it so you can understand large groups of data quickly. These numbers may not seem like much, but we can distill any huge worksheet, even if it was 1,000 columns wide, down to these 16 little columns right here, and it'll make a lot more sense. That's the real power of Excel, and that's what makes Excel worth a heck of a lot more.